0864. Station's your final time cue will be with 15 seconds until airtime. Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
Hi, Mitchell.
Oregon is going to the Final Four.
The following is a Learfield presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
Welcome to Duck Insider.
Man, it feels great to be a Duck.
Give it to me, baby. My house. I'm taking it there.
Their competitors, they'll want to put the O on.
Three, got it!
We're going to compete to a standard every day.
The Oregon standard.
Rebound. Up and in. 1 point more to go.
The opportunity to play, put Oregon on your chest, should mean a great deal to you.
Unloads on one into left field. Back toward the wall. Gone.
This program is staged to compete and to win championships.
Oregon wins.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, let's talk Oregon athletics.
It is Athletic Director Tuesday. I'm Joey Mack. Oregon Athletic Director Rob Mullens is with us to kick off the show. Dan Lanning's weekly press conference coming up. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff against Stanford, and that is just one of many home events for the Ducks this weekend. It's awesome that today is the first day of school at the University of Oregon. And
awesome according to
me, because
okay.
there's a bunch of home events.
Oh, okay, I like it.
Volleyball, shout out to the students and the fans. What an awesome environment on Sunday.
Unbelievable environment. I know many of them were at the pep rally previous. Right. The impact of having the full band, Eric Wiltshire and that whole group, just the atmosphere was incredible and driven by the students.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. That's why I say, welcome back, students. It is the first day of school. Happy first day of school. I say that truthfully. Happy first day of school. Do you remember your last first day of school?
In college?
Whatever you consider to be your last first day of school.
No, I don't really remember it, but I do remember the excitement of going back and, new classes, new start. So, yeah, I certainly remember it.
It's a little bit unique at the University of Oregon because the athletic seasons have already been going in full force. Pac-12 play begins right around the time the first day of classes is. The quarter school is still a little bit unique.
It is, and I would assume that if you're at home for the summer by September 27th, all your friends have been off at semester schools, you are ready to come back.
Yeah, and then on the other end of that spectrum, in semester schools, right, in the springtime, it's a give and take. It's a give and take because then your friends are maybe back a little bit later than you, and that works out well.
It does work out well.
Yeah, it does. All right, I want to talk about a lot of different things. First, some news for football fans. E.J. Smith out for the year. Stanford head coach David Shaw announcing that today. He was going to be, a lot of people thought, their star running back, so heading into this week's game, well, that's a big loss for the Cardinal. We'll talk about that more coming up. Dan Lanning's weekly press conference. First day of school, I did want to ask you, Rob, about that because there's an academic focus that I think people like me probably should talk about more around University of Oregon athletics and around athletics in general because student is before athlete. There's a reason that is the case. So I just wanted to ask you for a second, give fans an update on just the Jaquas Center and all the resources that students have at their disposal, I suppose.
Well, obviously that academic experience is the highest priority, but our focus is on the whole student-athlete experience, the holistic student-athlete experience. And we have a team of 240 staff that chose this profession, to be a support system for student athletes to help them during this time in their life. And, obviously a big piece of that is the Jaquas Center staff and the phenomenal work that they do, outstanding facility. They're engaged in it every single day with our student athletes. But, so is our athletic medicine team. So is our behavioral health management team, with mental health counselors. So are our nutritionists and strength coaches. And, we have a whole team of people who have dedicated their lives to supporting our student athletes. And that's what makes this place special, is those people who have incredible care for our student athletes.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I feel like I need to make a note to ask you about those sorts of things more often when you come on. Because it's easy for someone like me to sit here and say, Mace Funo was the Pac-12 Defensive Lineman of the Week. Awesome accomplishment. But there's a lot of other academic accomplishments and community accomplishments that really go a long way.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, obviously the OHeroes program, listen, when you walk into the Jaquith Center, right on the floor, academic All-Americans, that's the highest honor that you can receive as a student athlete. So, that is our priority. We have a team of wonderful professionals who have dedicated their life to it, and we're fortunate. And our student athletes appreciate that and understand that. Student athlete development with Katie and her team. There's so many lessons. I mean, again, we've talked about this many times. Athletics is co-curricular, not extracurricular, and the lessons learned and the relationships built. Our student athletes spend a lot of time outside of their locker rooms at the Jaquith Center. So, there are lifelong bonds built, and I think some people have even met there and gone on to get married.
That's right. Well, and, it's interesting thinking about, as a lot of us do after what's gone on the last 2.5 years around the world, things that get lost over the course of time that are now starting to come back. It has felt like the first normal year, at least for me. I think a lot of fans would agree with that. So, for example, honorary captains, Order of the O always brings back some football players. We talked to them for the pregame show. I hadn't done that the last few years because they hadn't been bringing honorary captains back. That's a lot of alumni, and I got to tell you, doing those interviews, for example, with the 2010 football team just recently, so awesome. And some of the best memories that I hear talking with the athletics alumni, if you will, have nothing to do with what they did on the field. It's everything to do with memories of the support staff, and those are often the people, in addition to the coaches, that they remember the most. That's cool.
No doubt. And like you said, the things that they do together to impact young people, our community, men's basketball did the Habitat for Humanity.
Right. Yep.
Those are just tremendous things and just a great learning experience, but also just make you feel good because you are helping others.
No doubt about it. All right, Rob Mullens is here with us, and now I am going to ask you about some accomplishments on the field. Do you have more gray hairs now than you did Saturday morning before that game started?
Well, the answer is yes, or they're falling out because I don't have much left at all. But what I do have is graying. Yeah, no doubt. That was intense.
Yeah.
But it was in the fourth quarter on the sidelines. There was no flinching. It was impressive to see.
So I got to ask you, because I normally am down on the sideline. Now, we had personnel shift up this week. Everybody, Terry Johns will be back this week, by the way, everybody. So the pregame show, I promise, is going to be infinitely better than when I hosted it the last couple weeks. We're glad to have Terry back. But I was upstairs, and Jordan was down on the sideline. So I'd been asking everybody, actually, so what was it like on the sideline throughout the game? Can you tell us, because you were down there?
Sure. Listen, it was intense, but everybody was focused, and what was great to see is, the offense was encouraging the defense was encouraging the offense, and they were just feeding off of one another. There was outstanding leadership from the coaches, but also from the players. And listen, I know James put out a video. I got caught up in it too. I got caught on video and on Twitter of when Mace had the big interception and the defense was celebrating in the sideline. I found myself right in the middle of it, just reacting.
Well, you were one of many that I saw in that same environment, and that's how it should be.
Absolutely. Right? There, with whatever it was, I think it was a minute 20. I was like, oh, what's going to happen? And then boom, you get the pick six and. Whew, it was crazy.
Isn't it amazing that people like you and me, I think our first thought, everyone else is celebrating after Troy Franklin scores, and were you like me where your first thought was, boy, that's a lot of time left on the clock?
Absolutely. That's exactly where I went.
Yeah, that's maybe we'll outgrow that someday. Maybe it'll just, I don't know. Maybe not. But that is the first thing that I thought of. Well, what a great win. And Oregon football on a lot of momentum now heading into a big home game. Pac-12 home opener this week.
Yeah, no, and, obviously it would be great to get back in Austin Stadium. As you mentioned, great to have the students. And this Stanford-Oregon game has always impacted the North for several years. So, huge game.
Big weekend ahead with tons of events. We're going to talk about that. I do want to ask you, because fans always want to know about the kickoff times. 8 o'clock's a late one, but been pretty great with kickoff times so far.
We've had great kickoff times thus far. We've had great TV distribution. I think I saw the number today. We were at just under 2.3 million on Fox for Washington State. So when you add that up, we have had really good placement. But, yeah, 8 o'clock I'm as disappointed as anybody. We don't like kicking off at 8 o'clock. I understand the challenge that is for our fans, but it's a contractual obligation. Mm-hmm. It's the way the draft fell. Unfortunately, we're at 8 o'clock this week.
One benefit, the light show. Great videos come every year from the first night game when everybody gets their phones out for the Coming Home Light Show. That's the one benefit. If you haven't already downloaded the Goducks app to get ready for the light show, do it, because I'm telling you right now, people like Alex Stimson, who's sitting here in the studio, those cameras, those shots are that's about as good as it gets.
There you go. I like the silver lining you're finding there.
Optimistic. Between the first and second quarters, you're going to really enjoy it. I think that it's also important for us to talk a little bit about making it a great environment at Autzen Stadium, because that's what this is all about. It's a home field advantage.
Well, we saw what that can do with soccer. Last week we 100% saw what it could do at Matthew Knight Arena. The energy that was coming off of that crowd, and it was having an impact on the game. And it's the same at Autzen. We saw it at BYU. We felt it as a visitor in Pullman last week. I mean, those students were in early. That place was energized. Yeah. I guess it was the first sellout they'd had since our game there in 2018.
Yeah.
So when the Ducks show up, the home team sells some tickets.
Yeah, and then 2014 was the last time Oregon won in Pullman when fans were in the building.
Oh, wow.
And if you'll remember, that game was 38-31, and Marcus Mariota did some pretty amazing things in that contest.
I remember it well. So, Autzen is as big a home field advantage in college football. So when it's packed and it's roaring, it has a big effect for the home team.
Talking about volleyball, we mentioned just how awesome it was to see that environment, and we hope now that volleyball beating Stanford is a little bit of an indication of what's to come for Oregon football here 6 days later. That's a big-time win for Oregon volleyball, and, man, they're off to a good Pac-12 start.
Huge win. Coach Ulmer always creates a very, very difficult non-conference schedule to challenge us, because the Pac-12 is as good as it gets in volleyball. And then to have a number 5 ranked Stanford team in here and to play the way that we did in that environment, it sure was fun.
And the third straight win over that Stanford program for Oregon volleyball.
It's very impressive. We had opening ceremonies where, as an athletic department, we welcome all of our student athletes back at a sort of brunch right before that. And a number of them went out and supported the volleyball team. I know there were a number of freshmen that came and supported. It was just overall an incredible atmosphere, and I know how much you probably saw Brooke Nuneviller grab the mic. And I tell you what, folks, Brooke Nuneviller is a special talent, and this is her last year. So come watch her play. She is an incredible athlete.
Special talent and a really special person. Now, we played some of her post-match comments on the show yesterday, and, she's one of those individuals, Rob, and I don't think this will surprise anybody, doesn't really say much about herself. Talked all about her teammates after the match.
Incredible leader, amazing work ethic, and it shows up. And she's just so multi-talented. She's effective in every position, and she's just so smooth doing it. Sometimes I think the greatness gets lost because she's so smooth.
I think that's a great point. So Friday at 6 o'clock, you're going to be able to take in Oregon against Arizona State. Friday, 6 o'clock, I mean, the way I look at it, not a kickoff until 8 o'clock the next day. You got plenty of time to enjoy a long Friday night.
I think you should come in Thursday,
that's
like
right.
Many of these, at these college towns where in the South where there's a home football game. Descend on Eugene. We've got a great soccer match, volleyball, football. We'll take it all.
I want to ask you about soccer coming up in a moment. 7 o'clock against UCLA on Thursday. Pape Field going to be rocking. Win over number 15 Washington. This is number 1 UCLA, and the Ducks have played UCLA as tough as anybody in the Pac-12 since Graham Abel got here. Just look at some of the numbers and the scores and some of the shot distribution. This is going to be a good matchup. I do want to back up with you, Rob, and ask you about the opening ceremonies. Is that kind of like the first day of school for you as the athletic director?
Yeah, it sort of is. As you mentioned, we have a number of teams that are here, a number of student athletes in summer school, but that's the first time we're all back together, and it's our student athlete advisory committee takes on the leadership role. But it's just kind of a welcome back. Great to see you. I hope everybody had a good summer, and let's have a great year.
Let's have a great year. All right, we're going to get a quick timeout, come back, a little bit more on soccer. Haven't even yet talked about cross country. It was a good weekend for the Ducks.
It was a great weekend.
We picked a good week to have you come on the show.
Yes, I like coming on when we have an undefeated weekend and lots of wins against ranked teams.
I wish that I could tell you that I planned that, but we scheduled this for Rob in, June. So sometimes I get lucky, I guess.
Hey.
It works out. Yeah, we're going to get a quick timeout. Come back more with Athletic Director Rob Mullens on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey, Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. He sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself.
For many military veteran caregivers, their caregiving journey starts earlier in life and lasts longer. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Well, you know that it's just sports fans when during the break we just went back and started talking more about the Oregon football game. What a great game it was. Oregon Athletic Director Rob Mullens joining us in the Country Financial Studio. Duck Insider presented by On Point Community Credit Union. We were just both, I think, kind of, for lack of a better description, Rob, drooling over the game management of the Oregon coaching staff because it worked out well there against Washington State.
It really did. When you think about all the things that had to happen in that period, the preparation, and that's one thing that I've been so impressed with Coach Lanning and the entire staff is they think through a lot of scenarios. I think you probably saw in his comments that he got in the huddle on that last drive and said, hey, this is Thursday practice, man. Right. Let's just go execute. But when you think back to how they managed the timeouts and the clock, and how calm and collected they were, they saved all those timeouts, and I don't even think even needed to use them.
Yeah, no.
Which is amazing. That the game management throughout the whole game, but particularly in those last 6 minutes, is gave you a chance to win.
That's right. And thanks again to Mace Funa for just doing what you did, because then I think it made all of us feel a little better.
It does, and it's so much fun to be on a sideline and see the reaction of somebody like Mace, who's given so much to this program, to have that moment. And then in the locker room, I got a chance, to hear Mace describe it. So if you get a chance to talk to him, the way he describes it, he read his key, so he was prepared, and he's like, it's coming, and he knew, and boom, he executed.
We're planning to have Mace Funa on the pregame show this week. So
what an infectious smile.
Yeah, no doubt.
Aside from being a great person and a great football player, he's just great to be around.
Yeah, so that's coming up. I always say I don't like to say who we're planning to have because sometimes these guys have a lot going on, right? And especially first week of school, sometimes it's tough to line up schedules to do one of these interviews. We got to make an adjustment. Somebody comes off the bench for a substitution, and then come Friday we have a full pregame show done for you. But yeah, that's the plan anyway, is for Mace Funa. I do want to talk a little bit about Oregon soccer because you mentioned how cool the environment was. Graham Abel was sitting in this chair yesterday, and he said, hey, fans, you made the difference against Washington. I mean, that was a big-time win against then number 15 Washington. It's the B-Oregon game coming up on Thursday. Awesome, awesome event.
Great event. Obviously, a huge win against UW and a chance with a top-ranked team coming into Pape Field. And, it makes a huge difference. And I know we've talked about it on here, but this team has been through a lot. They've had some early season injuries. Student athletes are playing out of position, but this team has incredible fight and grit, and they are just finding a way, coming together to win huge games.
Cross country. I got to ask you about the start of the Jerry Schumacher era, and it was off to a good start. Yep. You win the Bill Dellinger. It's pretty good.
Oh, it was a great start. It was fun to be out there. It's great to see the staff and experience their first meet. There was a great little crowd out there for a Friday morning. It was a beautiful day out there, and appreciate our friends at Pine Ridge who let us do that out there in Springfield. But it was a lot of fun. It's always fun to be out there and see so many of the Dellingers, a fun event. And then to hear Jerry, the men executed the plan to perfection, and Aaron stayed to the 4K mark and then took off.
Yeah.
It was fun, and Shailene, described the women's as, listen, they had a great race. It was fun to get out and compete and feel that energy of competition and what they need to do next.
Good start for cross-country season. We'll have more coming up on that subject throughout the next few weeks on Duck Insider. Okay, I want to go big picture for you because we try, probably many of you who listen and watch regularly have noticed this by now. I try to have Rob come on about once a month. So normally, when I first started doing these interviews with you, I felt like I didn't really have a lot of bigger picture questions to ask you. It wasn't as rapidly changing of a landscape. Now I feel like there's something new to ask you about in the overall state of college football and college sports in general, like every time we talk. So I'm going to ask you a very general question, and then I'm going to let you run with it.
Right.
So many headlines. What should fans know and have picked out and be thinking about in the greater college sports landscape since we last talked about it like a month ago?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a lot of the same things. I think what I really hope people are able to do, to be honest with you, is it is a time of rapid change, and there's a lot of rumors and headlines. Is let's enjoy the moment. Yeah. Sometimes I think we're so focused on an expanded playoff or conference realignment. Let's enjoy the moment. We've got some great student athletes, outstanding coaches that are off to a great fall season. So while all those things are going to be happening, know this: Oregon is well positioned. Everyone, our passionate fans, our donors, our coaches, our student athletes, our staff have positioned us well. So Oregon is going to be in a great situation no matter what change comes. We will roll with it. We are prepared for it. But let's enjoy the journey while we're in the middle of a great season.
I like that. And with that, we conclude our big picture conversation for the month of September.
We can get a sponsor for that.
We probably should. I mean, that's
Bigfoot Beverages. There you go.
See, there you go.
Andy and Eric love Big Picture.
They're the game sponsor this week.
Perfect.
So good timing on your part. It really is amazing how fast it changes, and of course, come October 27th or whatever date you're next on,
right?
We'll do this all over again.
And I'm sure there'll be plenty of headlines between then.
Yeah, something. Well, I do want to end with something that is really awesome for a great colleague of yours and mine, which is Lisa Peterson. Now, Pac-12 announcing that she's moving up to the conference office, and let me just say on a personal note, we're really going to miss her at Oregon, but man, that's cool seeing a Duck moving up to the conference office, and I will tell you, she's doing what I have unofficially deemed her exit interview on Duck Insider on October 11th.
Oh, good.
So
good.
I'm looking forward to it.
No, anyway. Lisa's been a huge contributor over the past 10 years to our success here, and she will be missed. She is a huge advocate for the student athlete experience. She's an experienced professional who's helped us build the culture and the systems that have allowed for the success that our student athletes have enjoyed. I mean, believe it or not, she and I have worked together for over 25 years at multiple stops. And when you work with somebody that long, it leads to efficient communication.
Sure.
So, but like you said, really happy for her. You know, it's an opportunity to work remote, to make a personal decision in her life that we fully support. Obviously, it's great that she's staying connected through the Pac-12. And we'll be forever grateful for all that she did here, and she will be missed.
Yeah, she's definitely going to be missed. And so, fans, if you missed the announcement, she's moving up to what do I call it? A commissionership?
Yeah,
is that appropriate?
I don't know I don't know if it's associate commissioner or it's somewhere
but it's like
in the leadership.
It's like an athletic directorship, right? If you're in a corner office, so
sure.
she's at that level now,
right.
and going to be overseeing all the Olympic sports, which means that if Oregon's hosting, like we hope to,
sure.
a lot of Pac-12 championships, that means Lisa might be back. So we're going to still see her. At least that's what I'm going to tell her.
Yeah, and now you can send her emails about 8 o'clock kickbacks because she does have a Pac-12 email address.
Oregon Athletic Director Rob Mullens. Yeah, I can't ask you anything else after that. That was great. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, guys.
That's perfect. But yeah, Lisa will be on the show. A lot of fans actually, I want to say, a lot of fans asked, "Hey, is she going to be on the show one more time before she leaves?" And she is. She actually was already scheduled to be on that date, and it worked out with the timing. So I'm really looking forward to it. I may have to ask you off the air if there's anything that you want me to ask her. Of course, for fans in that interview. Right. So. She told me that she's, and I mean this sincerely, she told me that it will be difficult to do said interview because she knows I'm going to ask her about a lot of great memories, and that says a lot about her, I think.
Oh, no doubt. It's been a great run. She's obviously had significant contributions to so many things here that have changed the course of Oregon athletics. And so her fingerprints will be all over it for a long time.
That's cool. Oregon Athletic Director Rob Mullens with us for Athletic Director Tuesday. We'll see you at Autzen Stadium.
Yes, we will.
All right. Or Pape Field.
Or Matthew Knight
Arena. And maybe all three.
All the above. That's right.
All the above. When we come back, Dan Lanning's weekly press conference from Monday evening. That's next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear gas prices, Toyota is the #1 retail brand for electrified vehicles for 22 years. That says it all. Toyota hybrids. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer estimates, CY 2000 through 2021 sales.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
Dear gas prices, Toyota is the #1 retail brand for electrified vehicles for 22 years. That says it all. Toyota hybrids. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer estimates, CY 2000 through 2021 sales.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Chris Jakimick, I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. Being a veteran, it's interwoven into your DNA, is really the absence of the connection and the purpose that can really drive a lot of veterans to some negative thoughts. For those who are in a suicidal crisis, the window of time to save somebody's life is very short. Our duty is to protect ourselves and protect our families, and one way you can do that is store your weapons safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Welcome back inside the Country Financial Studio. It is Duck Insider presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Rick asking, where's HJ? That's funny. I saw HJ in the hallway today. If you have something you want me to ask H, let me know. I'm sure he'd be thrilled. I'm sure he'd be thrilled. Asking about one of our Pet of the Week features. No, we haven't done our Pet of the Week yet for this week. So come on back. Dan Lanning, every Monday, talking about, God, what a game that was. But also, this says a lot about Coach Lanning. I mean this really. Last night, he led off his press conference not talking about Duck football. This was cool from his weekly presser, Dan Lanning.
All right, back at it. First off, I want to just congratulate Coach Ulmer and Coach Abel on their big wins with soccer and volleyball this past weekend. Always fun to see other sports do a really good job as well. I know they have home games again this week that we're excited to see. Also want to thank just everybody in the Pac-12 this past week for taking the time to honor Spencer by painting, the tick marks. I think that's really a really neat way to commemorate and remember a guy that obviously means so much to us. All that being said, I said, most of my thoughts right after the game, but excited to be able to walk away from a tough environment and a tough start with a win. Really proud of our guys and their resiliency and how they finished that game. Certainly a lot of stuff for us to grow on, and looking forward to playing a team that I have a lot of respect for and a coach that I have a lot of respect for in Stanford this week.
You mentioned post-game Saturday you'd heard from a fair amount of people about what it was like to play at Washington State, and that was tough. I suspect you're going to hear from a fair amount of people this week about losses to Stanford that have ruined past Oregon football seasons. Traditionally, in recent years, they've been a pretty tough, unique preparation compared to the rest of the league. Do you see anything like that on film so far as you get into them? Yeah,
they are certainly different. They have their own footprint, and they're a different team to prepare for. And some of the packaging and personnel groups you have to get ready for, the way they just play, the style of play that they have is different. And again, they've had a lot of success, obviously, over the last few years, and we were able to hit on some of that history today with our team, and I think our guys are really familiar with, the success that Stanford's had in the past and have a lot of respect for that team.
With an 8 p.m. kick, how does that change your schedule on Saturday to kind of make sure you guys are up and ready to play that late at night?
Yeah, we do a few different things. We kind of have all these schedules mapped out in advance based on when our kick is, back to when we go to bed the night before, what that timing looks like, having an activation lift that we do the day of a game. So there's a few things that we do a little bit different just with a little later kickoff.
Are you all appealing DJ's targeting call? And because that's a new thing, Dan, if you are, what is the process for that? It goes through the conference to Steve Shaw, who gets back to the conference.
Yeah, it's been appealed and it's been denied.
Talked a little bit about Stanford already, but it's a pretty veteran defense. I think their top 7 tacklers have like 4 or 5 years of experience each. Does that come across on film? Kind of what do you see from that unit?
Yeah, still getting into it, but yeah, there is a lot of experience. It's a team that plays with great discipline. They don't give up great big explosives. I think that shows. When you look at their penalties, they're one of the lower penalized teams in the nation as well. But yeah, there's some experience that certainly shows up, and you can see it on film.
Coach, you get a big win against a good Washington State team. Now you're going up against a team just suffered a loss, doesn't have necessarily the best record. What do you tell your guys, or what do you do to kind of remind the guys to maybe not get complacent or rest on the laurels of this big Washington State win?
We spent time this morning talking about, really the variety of ways that we've won this season and the variety of teams that we've played. And I think you just kind of can continue on where do we need to grow? Where do we need to build for us to be a complete team? We've proven we can win in some different settings and some different ways, but this is a team that we have to bring our best for, and it's really, just like I've said every week, it's about Oregon and our improvement, and we have a lot of respect for this team. This team, shortened our season last year, or at least didn't, some of the guys in our room, they still have a bad taste in their mouth, from playing these guys before, so that's not far from their minds, and playing to our best is, so that's really what we focus on.
Just defensively, what do you see out of the Stanford front and just the challenges that they may present for you guys?
Yeah, just what they're a well-coached team. In the past, obviously Stanford's been a 3-4 team. You see more 4 down now than you have maybe in the past. That being said, well-coached, they understand their assignment. They play assignment football, and they can create some negative plays with the way they play.
A couple of weeks ago, you talked about wanting to coach better during shout and potentially, telling players when or when they shouldn't celebrate during a shot. Have you had that conversation with players or really set any parameters for what you want to see during that period?
We've talked to our team about it. I think they have an understanding of our expectation.
Talked a little last week about Bo's situational improvements, particularly on third down. He does it again and in the fourth quarter, which was another situational split that wasn't favorable for him. In the offseason conversations you guys had and reviewing and assessing that, who was involved in that process? Like, I'm getting at who deserves all the credit for this? Is this you and Kenny? Is it working with the guys at QB Country?
Kenny and I didn't play a single snap on Saturday, right? And Bo deserves credit for the way he performed. Our players deserve credit for the way that they perform in games. You know, he performed well. Does he have to take coaching? Does he have to grow and improve? Absolutely, but he's done that, and he did what he needed to do in the game on Saturday. You know, I promise you there's plays he wants back too, right? But I didn't play a single snap, and neither did Coach Dillingham. Does that mean he was well prepared? Absolutely, he was. But he put in the work to be well prepared.
And you pick up your first conference road win, a game where your backs were against the wall and you had to make plays late. Do you feel like you learned more about your team in a game like that than maybe you did in the first 3 games of the season?
I don't know. I think each game that we've walked away from, I feel like I've learned something unique in each one. Obviously this is that game to me was our DNA trade game. You know, we had to go out there and play a team in a rough situation where we had to really show some resiliency, and there was moments of sacrifice and growth and toughness, and all those things really showed up. The things that we talk about, connection, all those things really showed up in that game for us. I think you saw it firsthand as it played out, and I'm sure there was a lot of people that didn't really believe there at the end of the game, but I don't think there was ever an ounce of doubt on our sideline, which I certainly appreciated because we needed all hands on deck. But we learned a lot from it. I think we've learned a lot from each game we've played in this year.
I think after George, you talked about communication on the field, and it looks like you guys got caught one time looking to the sideline. Can you walk us through what happened there, maybe ways this week to work on that?
Yeah, it's a trick play, where they're basically checking to see if we're checking. At times, if offense changes their call and you don't change your call defensively, they can catch what you're in. They tried to simulate like they were changing their call offensively, and then they didn't snap the ball. And we can coach that better and do a better job of that on our sideline, and we will. We'll coach it better. Certainly, a way you don't want to give a big play, and something for us to learn from as a team.
The throw from Bo to Bucky on 4th and 2 gets kind of lost in so many of the things that happen after it, but without it, none of those things probably occur. In rewatching it, your assessment of that play on both ends, it's a heck of a throw, and obviously Bucky's catch as well when there's not a lot of room for him to maneuver and make that catch.
Yeah, that's good players making good plays there. You're 100% right. When it does get a little bit overshadowed, I mean, that game's a completely different game if that 4th down doesn't get converted, right? And that's an extended play. It didn't happen clean like you anticipated happening when you call the play. But 2 guys did a great job of making a play there, and as well as the protection up front and other guys within the sequence of the play doing their job really made all those things work.
Coach, you probably had a lot of energy in the locker room and then coming back here and in practice today. How do you kind of control that energy so it's more productive as opposed to, say, like wasteful energy, like guys just kind of just messing around in practice or just like kind of burning through the energy that they could use for the game?
We don't mess around much. We just kind of work. And energy is a good thing, right? You need energy to be successful. So we just try to focus on the things that matter and put our energy towards that.
Dan Lanning, Oregon football head coach, meeting with the media last night. More coming up from his weekly press conference. It's always brought to you by Willamette Valley Cancer Institute and Research Center. Fight like a duck with exceptional cancer care close to home. More from the head coach Dan Lanning next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
This is Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
It's time for today's STEM tip. Okay, you know recycling is important. No one wants plastic in the ocean. Here's a cool way to repurpose a plastic bottle. Build an awesome terrarium. Cut a large plastic bottle in half and fill the base with sand, pebbles, potting soil, and your favorite plant. I chose an African violet. Put the top of the bottle over your base and place it in the sun. Your plant will grow sealed in its own ecosystem. Fun, right? Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
We're back inside the Country Financial Studio. I'm Joey Mack. It's Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. 8 o'clock kickoff against Stanford, televised on Fox Sports 1. 6 o'clock pregame show for us across the Oregon Sports Network. He hasn't updated his hand. We'll talk with Alex Stimson a little bit later. I feel like I could just see through the back of Alex's head that there's some wit waiting. The gears are turning. Gears are turning for Dan Lanning as well. Oregon football head coach, part 2 of his weekly press conference.
Red zone efficiency was something that hampered you guys really in the first half, especially. What conversations are you having right now as you head into this week of practice? Are you already practicing? But what kind of conversations are you having about cleaning that up?
We worked red area today, right? So it doesn't take long. I mean, I think one of the things that this team's shown is if there's something that we're not doing well, we're going to work on it and work on ways to improve it. And we focused on it. We talked about it as a staff yesterday and ways that we can be better there, and we'll continue to do the same. But we focused on it in practice today, and now it's got to show up on the field. We got to do that in practice first before we expect to have the results we want on game day.
Wilson leads the conference in yards per play on catches, and Humphreys is right there. I think they've got a running back, too, that averages a big chunk as well. Just that matchup, your secondary against these explosive receivers, just your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a challenge that we're excited for. I mean, these guys are big. They go attack the ball down the field. They do a good job of finding a one-on-one and then taking advantage of it. So we have to go win one-on-ones. We have to win one-on-ones in the perimeter. We'll have to do more with less at times in the run game. They're certainly have had some explosive runs when they do a good job of reading out their plays and seeing what's there, whether it be run option or pass down the field. So it's a good challenge for us.
Adam Berry had the first 7 punts of the year. Ross had one, I think, in a pretty big spot and did pretty well there. Is that obviously it's probably ongoing, but how do you kind of see that competition and what went into that decision to put him out there?
Yeah, we want to give Ross a shot to see what he was able to do in a game. He's performed some in practice, and I think that'll continue to find ways to make sure we give our best opportunity to be successful, moving forward. So if it's Ross, then we'll be Ross. If it's Adam, it'll be Adam. We'll see what it looks like as we continue to move.
Even going back to spring, you guys were really high on certainly Troy and Dante at receiver. At what point did it come through to you, Dan, that Troy, obviously there's really highly touted recruits, I'm sure you were aware of them before even coming here, but that Troy could do what he's doing right now for you guys, where he's well on his way to, obviously, long season ago, but on his way to really a breakout season, certainly a 1,000-yard kind of season potentially?
Well, for me, it's watching them in spring ball, right? Like, I think I always say that in here. What you do on the practice field, it shows up on the game, in games. And I've seen Troy do that. The thing that I'm more proud of with Troy is what he's done to help, grow his body, right? His body composition has changed. He's gotten bigger. He's got to continue to get bigger, but I think that's helped him be stronger and have stronger, better play strength. But you see some of those plays show up. It's, there's a drill that we call stumble bum here that we do. That showed up on that very last play where he's falling to the ground and he puts his hand down and there's an opportunity for ball security to be poor, and you'll watch him cross in the end zone with the ball covered up in the other hand, and that's something that we take a lot of pride in coaching, and Troy did a good job of executing on the field. But what I would say is Troy's doing what he does in practice and it's showing up on game day.
You said you don't pay attention to PFF, but Marcus Harper is supposedly the best interior offensive lineman in pass protection this year. Does that kind of align with what you've seen just in general? How's Marcus performed?
Marcus has had some really great moments. I think our offensive line in general has performed, well. And I would say that this past week's challenge was the biggest challenge from moving parts, the way they did a variety of things up front. And I thought our O-line handled that really well. Like I'll probably say every time anybody asks me a question, I think Marcus has other stuff he can get better at too.
Taking at receiver, obviously Franklin's been the big play guy for you, but can you maybe just speak to the play that Chase has given you? I think he's having a career year, and he's made some big catches in some critical moments on third down or just late in drives like at Washington State.
Yeah, Chase has just proven to be trustworthy, right? And we knew that coming in that he was trustworthy, but he's all about the team. And when the ball comes his way, he's done a good job of making the play, right? But he's very reliable, and I think that shows up consistently from him and his play.
Other than Josh getting in a couple of those jumbo packages, I think you guys' 5 starting offensive linemen played every snap. Was that by design, or was that?
I don't think that's the case. Yeah, you might go back and check. There's some other guys that played.
Going back to PFF snap counts, it said they played all 79 or whatever.
Just go watch the game tape, then I guess PFF snaps wrong. I don't know who does that. Some guy sitting in his basement is tallying it up wrong. I know JPJ played it as well. We had several. Adjustments there. So we have a good group of guys that we can play multiple people, and that's a good thing. That's a positive for us. But certainly there was a number of guys that got the significant amount of snaps, but that's not the correct deal there.
Since Byron's missed a couple of weeks, just how close is he to returning? We haven't seen a lot of Caleb Chapman just yet. We saw him late, I think, on either BYU or Eastern. And with Stephen Jones, is that kind of a post-bye week thing? Is that a longer term for him? But those are
yeah, not sharing anything on Stephen. Continue to evaluate, where we're at on Byron. Again, when he's able to do everything in practice and we feel comfortable about his health, then he'll definitely be a guy that I think can help us and contribute for us. Chap, I think, is close to being able to, be able to make some significant help us, out there on the field. He's certainly healthier now than he has been. So his role can grow if he's able to get it done in practice for us.
In some of those early red zone spots, we saw tight ends targeted on screens. I'm just curious on why those matchups seem favorable for you guys.
Just ultimately, I think you're talking about some of our read zone blocking plays. We thought our numbers count was going to look a certain way, and I think you'll see on the 2-point conversion it was a similar play call, but that turned into a block. Right, where T. Ferg actually turned in block and Bo was able to run it in. So it's just it's a call that has multiple options, and based on numbers count, it can go outside to the tight end on a screen, or it can be a quarterback pull where he can actually run the ball. It just felt like that'd be advantageous for us based off the bigger personnel group that we were using there, getting the ball out in space and not always running the ball when we're in that big personnel grouping.
Stanford traditionally likes to run the ball, a lot of power run game type stuff. This year you've rotated your defensive line pretty consistently throughout the game. How much of an advantage has that been for you guys, and just to have the talent and the depth to be able to consistently rotate guys in and out like that?
Yeah, it's definitely a positive. We have to continue to develop our roster, and I think the best way to develop your roster is through experience, right? And we want to be a team that can play multiple players, so that's something we have to continue to do. Obviously, stopping the run's a premium when you play Stanford. They want to bloody your nose a little bit, and they do a good job of that, so it'll be important in this game.
You obviously have the all-22 and far more data than I, Dan, but it seems like when Gonzo's lined up to the boundary that the corners to the field are being picked on a good bit. I don't know the exact numbers there, but anecdotally it seems that way. You guys have played a lot of left-right as opposed to field boundary. Just what goes into the decision? I'm not saying right or wrong, just what goes into the decision-making process of sticking with left-right versus potentially playing Gonzo more to the field when teams have been successful to the field a little bit.
Yeah, it's probably not as there's probably more thought put into than you realize on that at times, but we'll be able to travel our corners based on certain personnel. We play certainly left, right within a series a lot more often. Sometimes you play a team where they play left and right receivers, so that makes sense as well, right? But with tempo teams, if you're traveling your corners 53 yards every single play, right, they spend a lot of energy. We're talking about energy and where you use your energy. That's one place that I'm not always a big fan of using that energy unless it's for a matchup purpose. More throws in general in college football go into the boundary than go to the field. That's just consistent because it's a shorter throw. But we always evaluate that. We have certain places we'll put guys. Sometimes it's left, right. Sometimes it's matchup based. It's certainly something we evaluate.
Caillou Kelly's also one of the better cover corners in this league, other than Gonzo, quite frankly. What is the challenge for your receiving core against him this weekend? Is what makes him a particularly tough matchup for receivers in general?
Yeah, just got to do our 111th. This game's going to be about winning one-on-ones across the board. They have 11 guys, we have 11. And obviously he's a really good player. He's a talented player, but our guys just have to go out there and operate within the system, and when they get their opportunity, take advantage of it.
Dan Lanning, Oregon football head coach, his weekly press conference from last night. When we come back, talking a little baseball. It's the fall, I know, not the spring. But the Ducks are scrimmaging at PK Park. Those of you who are in town tailgating, you can come into PK Park and watch the team play. Back after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Here's a fun fact for you. The average chameleon can point their eyes in 2 different directions. On the other hand, the average human can't. So unless you're a chameleon, there's absolutely no way you can focus on texting and driving at the same time. So don't do it, unless you're a chameleon.
Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union, Joey Mack in the Country Financial Studio. So Mark Wasikowski, his Ducks getting rolling with fall practice. He met with the media last week. You heard a little bit from him on the show last week because, hey, the Ducks are going to scrimmage. That's right. If you are tailgating ahead of the Stanford game, the 8 o'clock kickoff, starting around 2:30, Oregon baseball will be scrimmaging in PK Park. Free admission. Come on in. What are you going to see? Well, Mark Wasikowski talking about that and more.
You guys started fall practice last week. Just how does it look so far?
We're only a few days in to fall camp, and it's been awesome. It's been a lot of fun being around the guys. The guys that have laid the foundation, so to speak, have done a really nice job, and so it does feel like we're further ahead than we have been so far in the years at Oregon. And just from a starting point, it's a good starting point. It's a good place. You can tell that we're just a little further along in a lot of aspects.
What specifically are you guys further along with compared to years past for you?
Well, you've got guys that know what it's like to be in postseason play. They know what it's like they know the value of practice. They understand the value of doing things right in terms of details. They understand that those things are going to add up to wins. There's a certain level of hungriness now where they've tasted success, and now they want more and they want more and they want more, which is good. So we're just trying to keep it simple instead of worrying about the big picture. We're just trying to absolutely nail what we can, and that's just taking care of one day at a time.
Where do you feel like were areas of improvement over the offseason that you tried to tackle?
Physicality, pitching depth, and togetherness and camaraderie on the team, just to continue to build that in the program.
Any specific pitching depth, righty, lefty, does it matter?
Doesn't matter, just good over not so good.
Physicality, is that just time in the weight room with Daryl, or what does that look like?
Yeah, Daryl's really invested a lot of time in the weight room with these guys. You know, since COVID now, this is the first time our guys were able to come back early and report early with the full meal plan, the full experience, the full weight structure, and so we've seen big returns. The goal is, and the goal was before COVID, to have that sort of a program intact where when classes start and actual classes and practice start, then you're way ahead of the curve and you've already had, you know, a month to 2 months of lifting and conditioning and training before you even really start classes. And in the past, due to COVID, we weren't able to do that. Now we are, which is definitely an assist. And then thank goodness our administration, from a financial standpoint, is funding that and has funded that better than any school that I'm aware of. And so our athletes are reaping the benefit.
Are there any guys who just really impressed you in the weight room in that regard?
Yeah. Owen Diodati, a transfer from Alabama, is really strong. You know, he's been impressive to watch when it comes to strength in the weight room, but I think overall when you look at the freshman class that we have, they're not small at all. They're really big human beings, and they're athletic and they're physical, and I think when you're watching batting practice, you know, and we'll see if they can hit in games and all that kind of stuff, but in batting practice, it's been a lot of fun to watch what these kids are doing.
Especially as far as starting pitching goes, how does fall fit in terms of evaluation, progress? What are you going to look for these next couple months?
Well, we're going to roll 15 scrimmages out there that are open to the public. A lot of the scrimmages that we're going to have, specifically with 2 home football games, we'll have scrimmages that occur before the home football games. And so against Stanford, we play a football game at 8 p.m. when we get a chance to watch Coach Lanning's crew play against Stanford. And before that, we'll have a scrimmage that starts basically at 2:30, and it's open to the public. So the tailgaters and everybody come on in. You can bring a beverage of your choice and hang out and watch a nice, nice afternoon of baseball as you guys are tailgating. Those are going to be 2 opportunities we have to do, and it doesn't even matter if we start at 12:30 with a kickoff. If that happened one day, like it did this last weekend, then we'd start early and we'd go at 7 or 8 in the morning to where we can give our fans something to watch.
How about that? Pretty cool from Mark Wasikowski, huh? I love the idea. So, yeah, you're tailgating and just tailgate at PK Park, essentially. I love that Waz is doing that. And you heard just a little bit, they're investing in physicality. It's a roster that returns the majority of the big-time players from last year, apart from the ones like Josh Kasevich and Anthony Hall who got drafted, and we hope we see him in a Major League uniform here soon like a lot of other Ducks who made their debut this year. Still, though, this is a deep group. I think that the pitching, there's opportunity there, as you heard Mark Wasikowski talking about. But guys like Tanner Smith coming back, Gavin Grant coming back, the position players look good. Drew Cowley coming back. I think this is going to be a good team, and I'm already looking forward to February when the Ducks are going to be playing games again at PK Park. So scrimmages, though, open starting at 2:30 ahead of that Stanford football game. You can go in for free and watch Oregon baseball in action. Today, after practice, Jeffrey Bossa, Steve Stevens, Brandon Dorless, and Christian Gonzalez all met with the media. Those interviews for you on the show tomorrow and later on in the week. Dan Lanning will meet with the media tomorrow as well. We'll have that for you on the show. A busy few days. Rob Mosley and Matt Ulmer scheduled to be with us tomorrow as well. And I got to tell you, it's a good week. Happy first day of school, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Guys, it's me, Isabella Gomez, filling in for Smokey Bear because he's got more to say than just...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Like, if you're outside enjoying a barbecue, don't let a hamburger distract you from fire safety. Make sure you aren't dumping your hot coals or ashes onto the ground because that could start a wildfire. So take wildfire prevention seriously and let's save the world one day at a time. Juntos con Smokey Bear, podemos hacerlo. Go to smokeybear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
Brought to